Rocket Rad Dad Pods with opinions no one asked for on current events, politics, and all things dad. It's the Phat Dad Podcast with John, Rick, Casey, and Tyler.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good.
It's the Phat Dad Podcast, starring John, Rick, Tyler, and Casey. Glad to have you. Episode number 4, I think, fellas. It's hard to believe, but this is number 4. So, how's everybody doing tonight?
I mean, we're moving on to the second trilogy. It's who could be in a bad mood?
Well, now that you're not Star Wars trilogies, though, right? Because they just get worse, right? After the top 3. So, is there a next good set that we can be and not Star Wars?
Yep. You know, we could go Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit trilogy was okay. I mean, I don't know if that's much better either.
Yeah. We'll just
a whole new thing.
Wasn't as good as the first, but
no, lots of stuff to talk about tonight. We actually did a pre-production show this time, so we're expecting good things. So we'll
way to put the pressure on, John.
Yeah. So we each kind of picked a topic tonight, and so we're each going to talk about a different topic and do some argument back and forth. But first, how's everybody's week going? Any good stories in dad, being a fat dad, or just being fat? Any good stories?
I always have good stories, John. You know that.
Well, yeah, and we just like to say Casey is officially now Phat Dad number 4.
Yes.
The pay and stipend went up a bit because we had to get some production value with the logo and an intro music, but he gladly footed the bill. So here he is.
Yep, it's on a pretty hefty tab right now. Absolutely, John. So what I've experienced here being a father and talking about fatherhood and how awesome it is. Tonight is my first night without my daughter for an extended period of time. She's staying the night at my in-laws for 3 nights, guys. 3 nights. My wife, we had to have a FaceTime with our daughter who does recognize us. It's great. She was laughing, giggling. She had a little bit of a temperature, I guess, earlier in the day, had some Tylenol, and now everything's better. Of course, she was eating, so I think she was happy because of that. But I feel conflicted. Because after the call, my wife is crying. She's literally crying, because we're not going to see our baby for 3 days. And then I started to think to myself, am I supposed to feel bad about this? And, do I miss my daughter? Yeah, I've been away from her for about 4 days at most so far in her young life. And did I want to see her when I got back? Absolutely. But I'm not to the point of crying. Am I supposed to feel bad about this here?
You new parents
nobody's
are so
screaming
cute.
in the middle of the night. Nobody, I don't have to get up early to change a diaper or give her a bottle or get her ready for the day. Not that I always do, because I have an excellent wife and she takes care of a lot of that. But I also don't have to hear about my wife talk about that either. So I'm trying to come to terms. There's a devil inside me right now that's struggling with coming to terms to this. And I tell you what, it's so far it sounds pretty good. There's no joke about it. It sounds pretty good.
I think you're at the right level. I think missing her a little bit and being excited to see her when she gets back, but enjoying your break. I think that's perfectly fine.
And I remember those days with Leo, our firstborn. I mean, it was just like a party. We were going to have a good time. Now, when they send all 3 kids away, we just pass out. We go to bed at like 7:30. So that's the future for you there, Mr. Fat Dad Iowa. So enjoy it. Enjoy your next couple of days, couple of nights.
You can't wait to get to bed at 9:30 and sleep in the morning and take naps in the afternoon, and it's the best thing ever.
I know if my in-laws only would have taken the dog, I mean, zero responsibility this weekend, right? So, but no, we're excited to kind of just have some time to relax. There's a lot of things we want to do around the house and everything, but I like right now, my initial thoughts, and if people watch this, they're going to criticize me and say, "God, you're a terrible father. You don't care about your daughter." Well, you know what? Freedom, baby, and I love every bit of it. So, yeah, so. That's what I got going on in my life right now. How about you, Rick?
Yeah, been a kind of a crazy week here, as it usually is, with 3 girls running all over the place. But kind of some cool things that happened this week for me is back when I was in college, we used to watch NASCAR races all the time, and I got at some point, with the kids and stuff, just too much time. We watched the Daytona 500, started watching the Daytona 500 a couple weeks ago. And it turns out my 2 older girls are in love with racing. They're completely dig it. I don't know, the Daytona 500, for instance, it got rained out or delayed. So it started pretty late at night and they didn't get to finish it. So I recorded it for them. And then the next morning they didn't have school. So they were up watching it. And I come out from working and they're both like sitting on the edge of the couch, freaking out about the end of the race because they couldn't stand it. So it's kind of a neat thing that they're enjoying it and allows me to kind of get back into it and watch it a little with them. So it's pretty fun.
Yes, especially with the girls, you don't know what you're going to be able to, I guess maybe not pass down the legacy, but what sporting events and what kind of stuff that you're able to enjoy with them. So that's definitely cool.
I think there's a crystal ball there, Rick. Right now, what I'm seeing, it starts with NASCAR. Then you're going to take them to like a dirt track race, and then they're going to be bringing a boy home with a mullet. You got a lot to look forward to when that happens, right? So,
yep. I'm going down that road, I guess.
Rick, you might as well start prepared to buy some go-karts.
It's on my list.
I'd jump in.
I got some space. I got space out here, so.
Yeah, you got that 7 acres back behind your house. We could put a hell of a go-kart track in.
Mm-hmm.
Dirt track.
That could be a full-size vehicle for me. I am literally fat, so.
Yeah, I got a story that happened last night, which was a learning opportunity that my youngest ended up telling me that it was a learning opportunity. So I was leading church. I call it Sunday school, but it's on Wednesday nights. And I decided to do an improv play with the kids. And so it was a story about Jesus clearing the temple. So we needed like 7 kids to run this improv thing. And so I went and picked all the different characters, and we needed 2 travelers. And both my daughters raised their hand with a bunch of other kids. And I said, well, I better at least pick one of my kids. And so I picked the oldest, and then somebody else to be the other traveler, and didn't pick my youngest. And she had a complete meltdown. I did not know this was going on. It was probably a 2-minute play that I did. Got done, said, all right, kids, time to go downstairs to sing some music, and just hear this screech from the back, this deadly cry. And it was my youngest, just mad as heck. I asked somebody what was going on, and they said, well, you were okay with picking none, and you would have been probably okay picking both of your daughters, but picking one was not the correct way to go on that. So
lesson learned.
Yeah, she got to lead music. She's only 4, so she got to lead music in front of everybody, which I thought was kind of cool. So she wanted to lead the actions of the songs. So this morning on the way to work, on the way to daycare, she informed me that she will be in the next play, that she will be a part of that. And then we were talking about it at supper, my wife and I at night, and she told me that I had learned my lesson now. So she won, and she will be picked next time at when we do a play. So that's my dad's story for the week. So, yep, if you got 2, you better pick 2.
That is a pretty that's a pretty good story there, John. I'm going to stick to the sports theme. I'll back up. People that know me know that I'm a pretty big Kansas City Chiefs fan. So obviously last year we're in the Super Bowl, big deal, first time in 30 years. Of course, my boys who's love football, as we've kind of were watching the season. But who do you think they rooted for? What team do you think they picked? They picked the San Francisco 49ers. So they had to pick opposite. They do this, and I swear they just do this on purpose to antagonize me. So now, fast forward to this year, they're Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans, and the whole time, and now they won't shut up about it. It is just when they're playing catch. Just the other night, they're playing catch. They're playing football, running around, chasing each other in the house. They're Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It just so I catch it from you guys. I catch it from my coworkers and my own children as well.
Well,
So that's the benefit or the pain of being a boy dad. Sometimes they side against you on purpose.
To recognize greatness, Tyler. That's all I have to say.
And when you can't really blame them for being, they've been Tampa Bay fans for a large portion of their life since.
Yeah, that one
day.
They're
not. I mean, if you do the percentages, that's a pretty good chunk.
It's a good chunk. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Fair enough, Rick. Take their side. Sound like my wife.
They're not saying that they're Tom Brady though, right? When they're throwing football around, I'd draw the line there.
I don't know if they grow up to participate in 10 Super Bowls, John. I think I'll take it.
That's weird though. Chiefs, Pat Mahomes. Young kids usually love Mahomes. You'd think that they'd be all about that, but
I'm pretty certain my wife pays them because she knows that it eats at my soul.
Hey, you still got the youngest though. You still got a chance.
That's exactly right. I still got a shot.
Yeah. Does anybody have any moments in just being a fat, not necessarily a fat dad?
I feel like in this instance with this segment, we should start with you since you are the only one that's not part of the pun of our show title. Why don't you lead us off with your fat dad moment of the week?
Yeah, I got one. Actually, in the pre-production meeting, I was sitting there downing a couple of beers and my kid's goldfish, and they go, "This is a little bit of irony. He's the skinniest one, and he's the one eating. You guys had no food around you, but no
stealing from your kids, John. You're at the pinnacle right now.
Tell me, at least it was like a carton. You were just like cracking open their little snack packs, were you?
I've done that before, but no, it was like jacked cheddar or something. It was really good. It was hadn't had it before, but no. So I got a question out there to my fat dad teammates. As the skinniest guy in the group, who does midnight to 2 a.m. snacking?
I do, John, and I want to reiterate what you said. You're the least athletic looking one of us. So ours is reserved athleticism for inopportune times and that when life throws us challenges. And I absolutely do. I am a night owl through and through. I can survive as if I get 4 hours of sleep at night. It's great. And I tell you what, somewhere between 11, not quite midnight because I'm fatter. So between 11 and 1 to 2, I have to have something, man. And it's usually in the form of some sort of carbs. And right now I'm really trying to break the habit of caffeine and like pop. And I tell you what, man, the other night I pulled the same thing. I ate my kids' Teddy Grahams and had a diet cherry cola. So I'm a terrible person. But she's gone for the weekend and we're going to the store. So I'm going to be getting some new ones. We're going to be all right here. So, yep, absolutely.
Were they cinnamon, chocolate, or
cinnamon, man? No, they were honey ones, man. The honey ones are the
good
best.
Kind.
So, yes, yes.
Yeah, mine, our dog, we got a little ankle biter, Havanese little thing, and he always has, since he was a little puppy, gets up sometime between midnight and 1:30, and he always gets up. So we got a tradition. It's a great tradition. I let him outside. He goes to the bathroom. We come back in. We go to the fridge. He stands at my feet, ready to catch anything that I drop because I'm going in the leftovers, and I'm just going in like, not face first in there, but I'll use my fingers and stuff. But silverware, no. You don't have time for that. You don't have time to get silverware at 1:30 in the morning. Plus, if you do that and throw some dishes in the sink, the wife's going to know that you got up at 1:30 and we're eating. So, yeah. So I think last night it was leftover tavern meat, which, come on, leftover tavern meat with your fingers at 1:30 in the morning. But
You're an animal, John.
I'm an
You're
animal. Well,
Very primal.
That is my tribute to you three. That
I will never admit to doing what you're talking about, John. That just sounds disgusting. However, there may be once or twice a week where I am accused by my two older boys of eating all of maybe our cookies or brownies or whatever dessert we may have. I may scarf that down before I go to bed. And then usually I'm not smart enough to clean up after myself or destroy the evidence. So I'm usually in the morning, then I come out of my bedroom to two mad little men with like an empty, Ziploc bag that used to have maybe 2 cookies in it. And it's quite the insurrection.
It's a true insurrection, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about maybe putting one of my Blink cameras inside John's fridge so we can get a shot of this.
That would be.
I think so too. It sounds like quite the experience.
Yeah, it's a tradition. I think this tradition. The dog's 13 years old. So it's probably a 13-year tradition.
You realize that you're giving it positive reinforcement for getting up in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah, but you know what? He's done a great job cleaning up the crumbs. Whatever I spill, he's right by my feet. There's never any evidence. Well, my wife probably says there's evidence, but it's. And I bitch about him, always getting up in the middle of the night. But I suppose I've kind of helped that cause. So it is what it is. He's going to kick the can here in a few years, and maybe I'll break the habit at that point. Because I don't think I'll wake up, like unsolicited to get up and eat.
Sure.
But you never know.
We'll see, John. We'll see what happens. But something's working for you. I feel like you're maybe taking some laps or something at night too, because otherwise you look like the 3 of us.
Yeah, it's my metabolism is still high.
Must be nice to be the size of my leg, John.
It's because he's so high strung.
Probably is. That's a story for another day. We'll talk.
Yep.
Speaking of high strung, what are we talking about tonight, John?
Yeah, we are going to go to Mr. Casey Devers first to talk a little H.R.1. What do you got for us?
The Savior, the For the People Act, guys. This is greatness. This is touted as anti-corruption, greatest access to voting that you could ever fathom. Passed in the House here recently and strictly along party lines. That's how awesome this was. It's going to go into the Senate and fail. They're talking about trying to end the filibuster for this in the Senate as well because Republicans are not on board. Anyways, what is HR1? Like I said, it's a voting bill proposed by Democrats, and it's in opposition to what 43 states are doing right now, with over 250 pieces of legislation passed at the local and state levels to fight corruption. Basically, voter ID laws, or what they're trying after the 2020 election and all the irregularities that we've all experienced and heard about, right, has got everybody questioning the election process. And what Democrats are now doing is basically trying to impede on states' rights and state laws when it comes to voters and voting during federal elections. For those of you that don't know, voter ID laws basically says, hey, prove who you are, right? There's many states and many people. In fact, 4 out of 5 people support voter ID laws. Basically, you show an ID, prove who you are when you go to cast a ballot, okay? Right now, this HR1 bill, it's pretty preposterous to think about it. There's a lot of things in it. There's a lot of things going on. One of the biggest things, and I don't even know why it's even in there. Set aside protecting electoral integrity, right? They are now putting in legislation in this bill for it's called small donor donations. So it's $200 or less in this bill that anybody donates to a political campaign. You get $6 from the IRS to pay. So it's a 600% increase on that $1 up to $200, essentially giving whatever party or person you give money to. They get $1,200 plus your $200. That's $1,400. Never before has an election that I'm aware of or that I could find been publicly funded using tax dollars to pay politicians' campaigns. This is something Venezuela would do, as far as I'm concerned. It's atrocious. Another thing
I'm a little confused.
Yes.
You're not in favor of this?
Yeah, I thought we talked about last night that you were for it. No.
Oh yeah. I'm all for the federal government stomping on the state. Why not? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's superseding. They're superseding state law. Why even have state voting rights and state procedures if the federal government's just going to run it anyways? What's best for Iowa, South Dakota, whoever's not necessarily what's best for New York. And we could spend all day on that stuff, guys. What they want to do, and if I'm reading this right, they propose using the DMV to increase voter registration. There's 109 million people didn't register to vote or something like that in the United States, which is a big deal. I agree. It's a big deal. Everybody should vote, right? And I'm all for increasing and strengthening voter ID, voter registration. I want everybody to take part in this process because it's sacred. It's what the founding fathers intended it to be. We get to elect the people who govern us. But anyways, they want to use the DMV because that's not corrupt. I mean, nobody ever gets a driver's license, right? From the DMV saying that they're who they really are. But that's what they're proposing in this massive bill.
How many pages is it? I read like 800 pages. Is that correct?
You could be right. I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I don't want to give you false information. And if so, go figure. An 800-page bill to increase access to voting, registered voters. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't stop any of the problems. It doesn't stop ballot harvesting. And those of you that don't know what ballot harvesting is basically a political operative that can go around and get your vote, get your ballot, and take it to polling centers for them to count the vote. It doesn't matter how much. There's a lot of corruption involved with ballot harvesting. Use Google. Go to page 10 because that's where it's going to be. It's not going to be up front. A lot of this stuff I was deep into the woods on, right? It's pretty ridiculous. You want to put this in perspective. They want to increase early voting, give you 15 days out to increase early voting. It doesn't stop people from crossing state lines to vote. It doesn't. They want to increase, mail-in voting and make this a permanent thing. Mail-in voting, which is France doesn't even follow this, guys. France, the pinnacle of democracy and everything that France is. They in the 70s they ended mail-in voting because of how corrupt it potentially is and can be. The whole thing just reeks right now, and this is the federal government ignoring the Constitution and impeding on the state rights. And obviously, I'm not for it. The mail-in voting thing alone, they're so fishy. I have coworkers who received ballots of people that lived in their house 10 years ago. Thankfully they threw them away. But who's to say, my dead grandfather still didn't vote, and I still think he did. And he's been dead 3 years, and he's wearing that blue flag. He's pretty proud right now. So, anyways, that's my two thoughts. I'm sure you guys have all sorts of objections. Let me hear it.
I believe this would only take 10 hours to read. It was the estimate on the floor of the House. But yeah, Rick, what say you? I mean, if it takes 10 hours to read this bill, there's got to be something good in there.
Well, I'd like to discuss the public funding of the election with the small donors a little bit, because I think that's, maybe it's not perfectly executed, but I kind of like the idea of it. I did see that yesterday they amended it so that in order for you to be able to capitalize on it, you had to you couldn't accept checks over $1,000. So I think it might be a way that people can grassroots get in there, incentivize some people to maybe get into politics or maybe run, especially at maybe the House of Representatives level, in a state like South Dakota.
Well, what's it going to do for the people that already raised a bunch of money? They're just going to outgain those people even more, aren't they?
Not if they take checks over $1,000.
So if you take one check over $1,000, you are exempt from this at all.
That's the way I read that amendment, I guess.
Do you think it works that way, though? So, I mean, obviously, if you were, let's say you were not independently wealthy, I guess worth both ways, but you just really, time-wise, your best bet would be to find some big donors to fund you and get you started. But right, I guess then the process, then you're beholden to them, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
correct.
That's the fear that we've got.
And if you're running as the non-blessed candidate in your party in a primary or something like that, you're not going to, those big donors may not be interested. I don't know that it's a perfect solution, but it kind of, to me, it sounded like it had a little bit of merit.
I'm not saying it doesn't have merit. I just think if we're going to use public funding for anything, it needs to be towards schools or roads, or beefing up our defense and the U.S. military and our intelligence agencies. Right now, everybody always knocks the United States for how dumb our people are and how poor our school systems are and how we never put enough money into it because whatever reason. I just giving it to a politician who, albeit may start off with a righteous cause. When they get to the end, they're human, they're corruptible. And
look how much money was spent in Georgia for those Senate races.
Never before has that happened. I mean, what does it take now? $2 billion to become a president? Come on, guys. I mean, $2 billion.
To me, that's the issue. I just feel like it shouldn't take hundreds of pages of bill to fix this problem. But let's just put a cap on how much money can be spent in an election. And hey, you can only spend X amount. That's it. In most of we don't need TV ads and all this. Let's just have the debates. Those are put on by the parties in our network and our media. Let's have this out there. Talk to the newspaper. Go around, see people. I just think there's got to be a better way to do this, and we got to get this money out of there, especially the dark money. I would say that's like Trump supporters. That was a big thing, right? Draining the swamp. It was a big deal that he funded his own election during the primary. We need to get the money out here on both sides because I think it leads to massive corruption. And even in Trump, like if you look at what happened going into year 2 of the presidency, you could obviously things changed there. We had new people in there. We were beholden to, we started to take money, raise campaign funds. And I think we're back to kind of status quo, what we saw during the Obama years, during the Bush years, during the Clinton years.
I think we would all agree, right, that we want to strengthen this process, right, and do the right thing to make it better and uphold voter integrity and voter registration, that whole process. But the fact that you have 43 states passing or introducing 250 bills to strengthen their voting process, and then the Democrats, because it was the Democrats, come in and say, hey, we're going to pass this federal thing and it doesn't matter what the hell you pass, we're the federal government. Your state rule doesn't supersede our federal law.
Yeah, I would agree with you. That's one point I agree with you, Casey, on your hot take is at the end of the day, this country was founded, our government was founded, that we're a federation of states, and the election process is supposed to be at the state level, local level. Our government is supposed to be level. That's where most of the decisions are supposed to be made.
Yeah, it wasn't. Was there something there about taking down to age 16? But that got whacked.
Yeah, that got whacked right away. Age 16 did. There was some ultra liberal California, New York person that introduced that, and I mean, you haven't even experienced life at age 16. You know what I mean? Most kids don't even know how to pay bills at the age of 16. So having them vote in a process that they have no stake in, I think that's atrocious as well. So
Yeah, I probably have a super hot take on that. Like, I'm all for the ability to register to vote being as easy as possible, to allow anyone that wants to participate in the electoral process. That we make that as easy as can be, but I don't necessarily agree that everybody should vote. If you're apathetic, you don't want to spend any time learning about the issues of the candidates. I don't know that I really want you just to cast a vote, especially if it's just you're going to vote off of some meme, or the last commercial you saw. Like, actually don't think we want those people to vote. Whether you're voting R or D or I or C or whatever it may be, I want people who are invested in the process casting votes. That's what I think. That might be controversial, but that's where I stand.
I think circling around to like voter ID laws and wanting to strengthen that and stuff. It's called racist. I don't understand why it's necessarily called racist. They're saying basically poor people and people of color, because Democrats are claiming that's most of the poor people are people of color, that they can't get an ID. And I follow on Twitter, and granted that's a cesspool, but I follow some very prominent people that are very active in their urban communities that they find this thought process atrocious, that you're saying because I'm a person of color or I don't have the means that I can't get a photo ID. I can't go down. Yeah, that you're not capable of doing that. And this is racist. Voter ID is racist. Get out of the front door, guy. God dang. Makes me want to spit in somebody's face and gouge his eyes. I just
that's a perfect segue. But Rick, we'll give you the last.
I got
go ahead,
maybe one quick question, Rick. What's your thoughts on the gerrymandering rules within this bill?
So that was, I don't know specifically if they're going to take it and make it some sort of bureaucratic process, right? Which,
yep.
I guess on the surface, I think that it's a decent idea to get it out of the hands of just completely out of the politicians. But I think there's been quite a few studies and a lot of work done by people to do actual like research into like these gerrymandered districts and non-gerrymandered districts, and come up with like legitimate requirements on what makes a district fair and what doesn't. And I guess my thought would be, instead of just having some panel that's just going to do whatever they want, however they want to do it, if you still at the state level, and the states can set these criteria about what constitutes a fair district and what doesn't, with legitimate metrics on that, I think that's better than just whoever happens to win the House control the year after the census comes out.
Well, it's real easy in South Dakota, though. I mean, we got it pretty easy. So, I mean, we got it down.
One district?
Yeah, we got it down. No argument.
Why can't everybody just have one district, right? Why has it got to be so hard?
Yeah. The House it'd be a lot more stuff would get done in the right direction too. It would always be Republican, but that's all right. What'd they say?
Then those folks that want to get rid of the Electoral College might have something to actually stand on. All of a sudden, yeah, the rural states would be owning the day.
Yeah, what is it? 37 of the 50 states or something, somewhere in the 30s, have state legislators that are Republican, or the majority are Republican. So, yeah. All right. So, Casey, I guess we should give you the last word, since this was your topic. If you want the last word before we move on to the.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad now. 2018. What you think about that? It's 3 years ago. It's sad that the voting registration went to the Supreme Court, and they upheld Ohio's procedures for removing state registration lists of people because they died or they moved or become ineligible. Typically, that's a felony. You can't vote if you're a felon. That these things have to go from the state to the Supreme Court. basically voter integrity. And though the Supreme Court didn't uptake the last vote when it came to the 2020, I wouldn't hear it, which Justice Thomas was very, very outspoken, a man who doesn't speak out very often. He was very, very vocal about it. That's pretty atrocious behavior, maybe on everybody's part, to think that this isn't a serious issue and that going forward it won't be a problem. So.
All right. So moving on to our new bit that we are going to start every week.
Let's hope we don't have to do this every week, John.
Well, for the time being, it's our new thing for the week. So hope you enjoy it. It's the Phat Dad's Cancel Culture in Memoriam. Who and what we've lost since our last show. Dr. Seuss, that cat in the hat, he wore blackface, and now he's being canceled. Who knew that Dr. Seuss wrote all those children books just to push his racist agenda in a way that nobody saw until 2021? We have 6 books being canceled by the publisher. These books will no longer be seen except for the millions of copies that are currently in circulation. And here we look at some of the images of said racist images. We have Chinese people carrying this thing on top of their head. Oh, but what's that in that guy's hand? It's a gun. It must be white supremacy. And here's a portrayal of a Middle Eastern man. Look at that. That looks like nothing we ever see on TV. And they're a Chinese boy who eats with chopsticks. I know I've never been to a Chinese restaurant and been offered to eat with chopsticks. Read across America, it's no more in a few districts in Virginia. We can't have cat in the hat, even though just a few years back, Michelle Obama always partook in this blessed day. And for Emmanuel Caffey, the man who's 75% Latino, but put this white supremacy hand signal out the door and lost his job. He said he's glad his company looks out for racial hand gestures, but at the end of the day, he just wants his job back. And finally, Chris Harrison, who I can't agree more with this one. I always thought he was a big D. But what is he being canceled for? Nobody actually knows. He's being canceled for being canceled about talking about somebody being canceled. He said it was the judge, the jury, and the executioner. And now he is suspended from ABC's The Bachelor. Chris Harrison, the Phat Dad Podcast, we salute you. All right, so that is the cancel culture for the week. I don't know where you guys want to start out with, but I put that together this afternoon. The Dr. Seuss thing is crazy to me. It's been around forever. Some of that stuff was written way back when some of that stuff was not even thought about as being even a little bit of a racial or that sort of thing. I don't know. What do you guys think? We'll go to Tyler first. Where do you think cancel culture is gone this week, and what's your take?
It's tough for me and my belief system there. Obviously, the publisher, the folks who control Dr. Seuss's estate, say that 3 times fast, made this decision, decided that, hey, that these books no longer fit with the brand image they want going forward. I guess that's their right. That's their ability to do that. I think the bigger issue was obviously President Biden purposefully on Dr. Seuss's birthday, Read Across America Day, left out, did not bring up Dr. Seuss or Cat in the Hat, something that normally is done, but there's a movement in place right now to distance him from that, from Read Across America because of some of those images. I don't know. I'm just over all that. I feel like we've got bigger issues in this country to worry about than what Dr. Seuss drew 75 years ago.
Are we sure Biden didn't just forget about Dr. Seuss?
There's a touche.
Yeah, Rick, what do you think? What's your maybe not even on Dr. Seuss, but just the culture, cancel culture in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I think the cancel culture is just, it's out of control. I get tired of talking about it. I think, but there's still something that's said to be a little vigilant about it, because it's still something that's important and you have to be aware of it. But, sometimes like you said, there's still millions of those books out there. It's not like it's going away or it's never going to be read again. So a lot of it's show and a lot of it's bluster. We just got to kind of be vigilant to know when it's something serious that's going on, I think.
Well, and what I worry about is two things. Is this a trial run for other things? How do people react to it? Or are we doing something? And the other thing is every time we cancel something or get rid of something, what do we put in its place? Are we getting rid of stuff just so we can put something that's, a little bit different in its place? But Mr. Devers, what?
Yeah, John.
Your hot take on this?
It's
Casey going.
Right. A lot of things. One, I really don't care about Cat in the Hat a whole heck of a lot. It's a children's book. What it shows is that to the left, it doesn't matter if you're dead or not, you're not safe, especially from the extreme left. Dr. Seuss was a communist sympathizer. He was a liberal, a diehard liberal man. And the fact that 70 years ago, while society was completely different, nothing's off limits. And I think the left will continue to try to, you can call it history. There's some sort of Americana history or something like that. They're just going to destroy everything that they can, and it doesn't matter who it is, and nobody's off limits is really what it shows. They will literally eat their own, and eventually something's going to happen. It'll implode. But
if you look at what he did for 70 years ago, he was like a saint.
Yeah.
I mean, the stuff that he did was barely, that stuff,
you seen those Coca-Cola pictures? Got a black guy climbing up a tree chasing a possum, and there's a bottle of Coca-Cola next to him. You know what I mean? And the words, it's terrible, and it's the fact that we can't move past this, that people go back 70 plus years. I've seen things where people are like, "Hey, find out who owned slaves and punish those people who are living now who were slave owners." Man, it had nothing to do with that crap, and it's bad. Society's just pathetic. Our society's pathetic right now, full of pathetic people who've never been hungry in their entire lives. And the fact that I get, every day we get to hear them spew their garbage on social media makes me want to vomit and become skinny. So,
well, that ain't happening. We know that, but yeah, no.
Thanks, John. What are you trying to say, huh?
No.
Hey, fat and happy for life, man.
Yeah, no. Can anybody, before we move on, explain to me what Chris Harrison was canceled for, or his? I read like 4 articles and I still don't understand exactly what happened to him. Like he
was sort of sticking up for a lady who got canceled, I think.
Right. But basically he said, let's just wait till everything comes out. And
didn't he just ask questions?
Yeah.
Yes. And he wasn't woke enough.
Yeah. Let's not.
He was not woke. He did not emphatically agree that that individual who went to a party at 18 at a plantation, she should be canceled, kicked off the show. Completely, she was in the wrong. That wasn't his take. He said, hey, maybe we should give her a little grace. She was 18 years old. It was technically a different time. People weren't as woke or awake about these issues. And he stood up for her. And therefore now, I guess he's a racist. So God help us all.
Yeah. God bless America. All right, so moving on to one of my favorite subjects, my favorite guy to listen to. This guy is a stand-up comedian at every turn. Not you, Tyler. I'm talking about your top. Governor Cuomo, Tyler Layton.
Oh, I get to talk about Governor Cuomo at one point, not too long ago, touted as possibly the future president of the United States of America, the media darling. So yeah, let's walk through. He's been a busy man over the last few months. I'm going to try not to embrace my inner Bill Barr. Feel free to look him up on YouTube, and but maybe do it when the kids are asleep, and get us canceled. But Como, let's kind of. I think we got to start. We got to start a little bit back. Move back to probably to last March, almost a year ago. And talk about some things throughout the summer. But he picked we're in South Dakota, or three of us are. He picked a fight at one point, with our governor through the whole COVID, and I'll get into that. But back around March 25th, he ordered COVID patients to nursing homes, and that led to thousands of deaths. He also put in places, asked people to lie about the number of deaths by as much as 50%. He wrote a book. He went on a media blitz around the country, where he was touted as a hero of the coronavirus and the fight against coronavirus. I even think they gave him like an Emmy for something as well. And at one point, he was on one of the morning talk shows with George Stephanopoulos, and Kristi Noem was coming on right after him. And so as we're talking about cancel culture and wokeness, I just think this is absolutely hilarious, because obviously there's media bias. I think it'd be hard pressed not to actually agree with that. But George Stephanopoulos actually asked Governor Cuomo to mansplain to Kristi Noem how to be a good governor during coronavirus. Because at that time, you're supposed to lead like New York, and apparently move your COVID patients to your nursing homes and essentially murder thousands of people. I think would they lose like 11,000 people in the nursing homes? We've lost, I think, 1,900 in South Dakota. I guess that somehow makes us worse. I don't know. But not only that, he put in practices to deny all that, to lie about it, to hide it. Known about it for months. The media, they were doing their job, could have looked into that, could have figured this out, brought it forth. No one did. And all that's bad, makes him not a very, very good person in my book. I actually think, and I know we're going to talk about South Dakota politics and Kristi Noem, and we're going to shed some light to some of the things that she's doing that we, that we could all probably agree are not great. Not saying she's a perfect person or anything, but I think we were pretty open in South Dakota about what we were doing, why we were doing it. We didn't have mask mandates. It was left up to people and individual towns, businesses. I would say if you follow the politics of South Dakota, that's pretty on par, pretty much on the nose for the state. New York obviously did something very different. But meanwhile, as this is all going out in through essentially as it's coming out right now through really Cuomo's entire career, he's also led a culture of sexual harassment and abuse of women. And there's 3 accusers right now. I believe possibly Aaron, even tonight, there's a woman by the name of Charlotte Bennett who's going to go on in great detail, list out some of the things that happened to her. We've got people coming forward all over the place. Lots of witnesses. There's photo evidence. Cuomo's even talking about some of these. He's not going to step down. There's obviously an investigation going on there. But I think my hot take on this is it's just not acceptable to treat anyone in the way that's going to be laid out here. And I encourage you to go on, read from these women, these accusers, for yourself. It's not good stuff. It's not things I really want to talk about or repeat. As a man, it's not an acceptable way to treat a woman or anybody, another person. I do think Governor Cuomo deserves the right or has the right to tell his side. And all parties should come forward, lay out the evidence, talk through this. And that's when judgment should be leveled out. I know right now that's kind of not how we do things in this country. We like to have trial by media beforehand, and we don't get the most sensational stuff. But I don't think it looks good for him. The stories these women are sharing are pretty shocking. And again, they have no place in a work environment in this country or any country. in today's society. I do think this is very different than, like, for instance, Judge Kavanaugh's hearings, um, which gave me pause as both a man and as a father of three boys. Um, I think this is different. I think these stories are credible, backed up. Those were fairly outlandish, with not a lot of evidence there. And I think that we're walking this tightrope as a society, where we're trying to deal with these issues. And I think it can be a scary place, at times, for both sides, for both people who run into these deals, who are sexually harassed, and then people who are accused of, especially if they're innocent. Um, I just hate the media coverage, because I think in this case, Como was protected. He was put on there. Like, let's not kid ourselves. New York, upper echelons of politics, media. These people are all in the same circles. These people, they come out of one office, they go to work for a newspaper. To say that this stuff isn't known, that you didn't know that he likes blondes and he likes to have them sit outside his office and they're supposed to wear stilettos to work. I mean, it's just crap. And to think that we covered that up, and he goes on his brother's talk show on CNN, and now his brother can't talk about it. I just find it all disgusting. And I think we've talked about media coverage and media bias a lot. It's just no good.
Well, Saturday Night Live should be eating up his 2 hour, 1 hour, whatever it is, where he's just up there rambling the whole time, making himself look like a buffoon. They should absolutely, the late night shows should be eating that up. And he is like their saint. He has not one. They're still making fun of Trump from him as not even relevant anymore. And
you're right, Trump. We'd be remiss not to mention Donald Trump had many accusers as well.
Right.
Some of this very credible, some of this on tape, video evidence.
Right.
I don't think any one of us, or there's very few people that would stand up with a straight face and defend Donald Trump as some sort of great man or champion of human rights or women's rights. But I think at the same time, we're very silent on President Biden's accusers, in acquisition and the things he's been accused of as well. Media basically does not talk about that. Kamala Harris, our vice president, at one point brought it up during the primary. Now we're silent on it. So I just think that there's this double standard, and I think it's disgusting. And I think it's our politics, it's our media, and that's where it comes out. These people aren't woke. This is all just crap. Like this cancel culture, all of this all comes out. It's all about power and protecting which side that you want to be in power, so that you can make more money and reign over the rest of us plebs, keep us in our place. But I just think it's another example of the media picking sides, and then they're trying to flip flop because there's enough evidence. Like the mountain of evidence is there. Now it's like, oh man, we got to back up here, and now we're on the side of the women and we're going to destroy this man. And again, let's just get the evidence out here and run with it, and let's see what the truth is. My question to you guys is, and I kind of talked about this, and my wife and I really discussed this during the Judge Kavanaugh hearings. For us as parents of boys, man, what kind of world are we bringing these three guys up into? What's this look like? It can be a little bit scary, and maybe you guys, in the comment section, you're going to roast me that, what's this white guy talking about? But I think it's a little scary. But you guys are all fathers of daughters, and obviously this is something we named Donald Trump, President Biden, the governor of New York. I mean, this seems fairly widespread. You've got Harvey Weinstein. So again, as you guys as fathers of daughters, what do you think? Is this something you worry about for your kids going up, that they're going to deal with these kind of things, or is society shifting? Is this going to be gone? What say you?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to change. I think as long as there are men who are in power and who have never been challenged or been held accountable for anything, they're gonna continue to do these sort of things. I think it's just, we got to do our best to empower our girls to know what's right and what's wrong, and understand that there's situations where you don't be a part of it. There's nothing that's important. I'm sure a lot of these ladies thought they were riding his coattails and powerful men and taking them to the top, and that kind of thing. And I think you just have to kind of instill with them that that they are empowered and that they don't need to stand for that kind of thing. And as far as your boys too, I think you should be scared too a little bit. And I think it's just important to teach them that, be better, be the best, stand above it. Don't stand for these things. Don't be in situations where you can even be compromised at all about it, and try to be as strong as you can. And I know they're high schoolers and college age kids. I know that's going to be tough for them, but
yeah,
that's what they got to do.
And I got two takes on that. First, I'll say that, a lot of the stuff, not that it doesn't happen in the Midwest, but I think that's where our values, Midwest values and all that stuff come into play. I think it's a lot harder for people to get away with something like that because, people see it and won't stand for that type of stuff in the Midwest as much. I think it's almost become par for the course in some of these bigger areas. That's just how you get to the top. That's just what these powerful people do. And I think that's terrible. But, we've all been in those situations at work where, somebody says something that's uncomfortable, whether male or female, or, there's a joke out there that's just hanging right there that you would love to say because it would be hilarious, but it would cross that line. And you just got to be smarter about stuff like that. I mean, we've all been in that situation where like, oh, there's a joke there. That would be a hell of a zinger right there, but that would cross some boundaries. So I'm not going to say it. So I don't know, Casey, what do you think?
I think, Tyler, you need to raise your boys right, man. Chivalry does exist. I'd be a little two-faced to say that I'm the right person to comment on something like this because everybody has a history. I did not make good decisions when I was younger, in teens and early 20s, especially. God, all I cared about was the next bar I could go to, or the next weekend. At one point it was like, hey, I get to the next weekend. Yeah, we're going out. We're gonna have a great time. And we're gonna. It's not like we initially came out and said, hey, we're gonna objectify women and all that sort of stuff. It's just that we weren't respectful. We weren't. We cared about ourselves. We were selfish. So raising your kids to just be respectful and be, not selfish. I think that's huge. And be a parent, not a best friend. You can be a best friend when they're in their 20s, right? Raise them like to be respectful men at the end of the day. And as a father to a daughter, any boy that walks through my door, he's going to understand, and albeit at her expense, that he needs to respect my daughter. And I can't stop all the decisions she's going to make. I realize that, and I struggle with it because I'm a little bit of a control freak. But I want to be able to have those conversations with her that says, hey, you're going to be put in situations and getting older that you're going to have to make decisions that may or may not define you and your character, and just maybe baby walk that process a little bit. And I don't have it all planned out. I don't know if I could plan it all out. I just want her to raise my daughter to be a good person as well. And albeit if something ever bad happens, I hope she stands up and fights like hell and hits somebody with a corn shovel, because I tell you right now that I don't ever want her to be in one of those situations, and it's a bad deal. And will this ever end in culture? No, because greed has never ended, and it's been around forever. And power has been around since the dawn of time as well. So this will never end. To answer your question, Tyler.
Interesting take, Fat Dads. Yeah, I agree. I think this. I think Governor Cuomo's days are numbered. And
do you though? I mean, you look at like Ralph Northam in North Carolina. Guy wore blackface, and that was the biggest thing a year ago. The guy's still the governor, right? And he hung on by a thread, and the media all forgot him. But forgot
the media
about
never
him,
turned on him, though.
You're right. You're right. They didn't.
They're out for blood now.
Right. But I feel like the media is really focused on Cuomo's sexual harassment because they think he can get away with that, as opposed to killing 11,000 people in nursing homes. That's not the whole state. That's just sending people to
Yeah, that's
nursing
just the
homes,
nursing home.
elderly
Yeah.
people to nursing homes and killing them.
That was
you
on
know?
that was on Rush Limbaugh today. I can't remember the fill-in guest host, but he was talking about that. He goes,
Sure.
"Watch out for the sexual harassment because people have gotten away with that before and stayed in power."
Yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely.
What did the decisions he made, and he tried to cover up.
Yep.
With,
And look,
If he stays in power with the amount of evidence, then the whole agenda of the left and the media and what call it should be a wake up call to
look who's
everybody.
not covering this, right? Jim Acosta. Look at how he was to Trump for 4 years on everything Trump did throughout his whole life, right? Jim Acosta, if you get online, you can find footage of him, people coming up to him with their phone cameras and everything else. Or, well, hey, Jim, why aren't you commenting on this, blah, blah, blah. And he's just a blithering idiot about the entire thing. It just shows that they're out protecting their own. They're going to go with what's going to be least harmful to Cuomo. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I won't be surprised if he's still in office. And I don't think the case is, me personally, I don't think the case is strong enough to get rid of him. So
I think we got to add a bet here between Tyler and Casey. What are we putting on this? 2 months.
Apparently, the soul of the country.
Well, way to get real deep with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking a pop candy bar, maybe $20.
Pound of bacon is a fat dad thing, but whatever. Stick with your diet pop.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to cut this short because I think it's a good topic, but Rick, you got the final topic of the night, and we're already about an hour. So why don't you kick off what you want? It's probably not as long a topic, but go ahead and start what you want to talk about state of South Dakota politics.
Yeah. So quick update on, I know we talked about the marijuana bill getting overturned in the courts and that sort of thing. Did have a glimmer of something positive. The Senate here did pass a bill to at least set up the framework for it, to handle it like they should have. But then I think just yesterday or today, the House committee that it was in, they voted to move it to the 41st day, which for you people that don't know, the legislative session has 40 days in South Dakota. So by moving it to the 41st day, they've just killed it without having to actually vote on it up or down. So that's where that sits. I thought we had a little positive momentum, but no, we didn't. So then the other thing is our Attorney General Ravnsborg. He was finally charged in the last 2 weeks for the incident where he hit and killed a man driving his car. He got 3 misdemeanors, 2 of them that weren't even related to the exact moment of the incident. And he is refusing to resign. Our governor, Kristi Noem, she then decided to start releasing evidence, police interviews of him, where a couple pretty damning things came out. One is that the gentleman apparently was wearing some glasses, reading glasses, and those ended up inside his car on the floor, front seat and back seat broken. So his conceivably that means his face was through the windshield inside his car, even though Ravnsborg still insists that he thought he hit a deer. And then the second part is that the next morning after he came back to the scene and found the body, the first responders came out and they found a flashlight laying next to the man that was still on, even though the sheriff and Ravnsborg claimed that they looked and tried to find the deer that night, but missed the flashlight that was a few feet off the road or inches off the road. And he did Ravnsborg. He very early on we got the incident report, and this gentleman, Bovers, I'm not sure how to pronounce exactly. He wasn't walking in the middle of the road. He was very much on the edge of the shoulder when it happened, the ditch side, and still was hit and killed. But then the courts came in and told Kristi Noem she was being naughty and told her to stop, to pull that information back, which you can't obviously pull it back, and then stop releasing things since it was an active investigation. Then the House decided to take up impeachment articles against him because he still won't resign. But now that's on hold because they've decided to put in the amendment that they'll impeach him after the results of the court case. So, in a court case that he's gonna, 3 misdemeanors, he's gonna get a slap on the wrist, get, maybe a month suspended sentence or, something along those lines. And we just, I don't know. There's weird dynamics there. Like I don't like looking at it this way, but I think to me, it seems like maybe the Republican Party or the government decided they were gonna, push it to get him off on a lesser charge as long as he resigned. But then he refused to resign, and so then they came after him with the evidence to try to bury him. And I'm not sure why the House is taking the line they're taking with not impeaching him, but or why he's refusing to resign. It's ridiculous. But any thoughts on any of that, gentlemen?
Yeah. The dude's just got to resign. At the end of the day, whether you were doing what you should have been doing or not doing, it's all fishy, but you killed a guy. You have this hanging over your head, and it's not like he's, the Secretary of Health, or something for the state. He's the Attorney General. He is going to be deciding decisions of what happens on stuff. And with that hanging over his head, you just can't have that. You absolutely cannot have it. And I agree with you that it's fishy that Kristi Noem is releasing this stuff, or did release it. I think I'm glad she did, but I don't know. That's my take on it. You just have to resign. You can't do it. None of us in our jobs, if something happened like that, would be able to do it. As Attorney General, you're there to serve the people. Your job is to serve the people. If you can't serve the people, then get out. That's my take.
Yeah, I think with the facts that aren't even in dispute, the fact that it was somebody that was walking on the side of the road, that he didn't even know what he hit. It's not the driving down the highway and somebody ran across the middle of the road in front of me kind of thing, so even if it's technically they can't charge him and they think it's still bad, but.
Yeah, and the other part about the marijuana thing, I was very happy that the Senate passed that. I was very happy to see that they were trying to at least do what the people wanted, and then leave it up to the House, and it goes south. But at least we had a glimmer of hope there for a while that the will of the people would be followed, but it quickly got axed. Tyler, a South Dakota boy yourself, the only true one and only South Dakota boy. You got any take on that?
Yeah, I'll play devil's advocate here for a second. If something happens tomorrow to me, I make a mistake, I'm involved in an accident somewhere, I don't know if I should necessarily have to resign or lose my job. We've got a justice system, it needs to play itself out and go from there. I agree. It's a weird turn of events. There's lots of things here. A man died. It's a horrible deal. There's circumstances that sometimes are left out of news stories around why that man was on the side of the road and what he was doing and what kind of state he was in. Granted, that's part of it. We'd be remiss not to have that, not to bring that up. You hit somebody, you call the sheriff, you do a search. Did two people at that point decide to cover this up? I don't know. I wasn't there. But at the same, he called it in. The sheriff came out. They impounded his car right then and there. My understanding is a tow truck came out, got it. So nobody saw, that guy didn't see the flashlight either. It's just a weird, crazy thing. I think sometimes we really like to jump to judgment really fast, and we like to. Sometimes I think we like to think like there's conspiracy theories out there. Sometimes the simplest truth is the truth, Again, I wasn't there, so I don't know. But like I said, I'll play devil's advocate here for a second and go through. If I hit something, I guess that's probably what I would do too. I call it in. We look, from there. Rick, John, maybe something happened. I don't know.
Well, I mean, conspiracy theory though. I mean, we
Yep.
didn't land on the moon. I mean, so we're still debunking the moon landing. So I mean, that's what we do, and that's true. We didn't land on the moon, by the way. So
I just think that the facts that seem to be out there that nobody's disputing, it's
the glasses, right? He didn't find the glasses because he wasn't in possession of the car anymore. So if the glasses were found when the police searched the car.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know how fast he was going. And I've hit deer before. It goes quick. I've been involved in a car accident. It goes fast. And I'm not trying to make excuses or say the guys in one person's in the right or the wrong there. I'm trying to play the other side here.
Well, and I'm not saying that he should lose his job and his livelihood as being a lawyer and, take away his bar and all that stuff. But as far as being a public servant, I mean, you're running for 4 years to be a public servant. I mean, you can't do the job. You're tainted. That's my thing. I think he should go back to the public sector or the private sector. He's probably got a great job somewhere or had one. He can be.
Or we should have went through with the impeachment process, right? And had the trial, gone through it, figured out what to do.
Yeah,
that's probably the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is like, if he's not going to resign, which I think he should, but the fact that we just are putting the impeachment on hold indefinitely for if they charge him with 3 misdemeanors, are they going to say, oh, that's perfectly, that's impeachable now, right? Like I don't understand the logic there. And it's like you said, there's that impeachment process still would have had that due process and he still would have gone through. And that, I don't know. I think to me, it's just, there's a lot of fishy stuff there. And at some point when there's so much fishy things going on that at some point you just have to say something happened that's unsavory and can a person do his job as attorney general with that?
And you guys are both right when you say that. Like, if I was in his shoes, I'm probably resigning and focusing on clearing my name, and walking through what happened that night. And yeah, with this hanging out over you, yeah, can you do the people's business? I think an impeachment trial would hammer that out. And again, it's got the due process. That's why it's there. I feel like we're being cowardice, not going down that path.
All right. Well, we are at an hour and 15 minutes in, so I think we'll go around for one final fat man take on everything. If you want to get about 30 seconds to oppose what we talked about tonight, give your last thoughts. We'll give it to the man in Iowa first, who sat through that whole South Dakota thing. So we'll give him his the final take first.
Cuomo's a piece of trash, and everybody protecting him is trash. And our media is trash, both sides. Do your own research. Again, I'm gonna beat this dead horse till I die. Right? Go to page 30 on whatever search you got, because that's where the facts are at. Every document, you realize the bias that's out there, and I hope people start to understand that maybe politicians and cancel culture and the stuff that people are involved in are not what's best for society. And that's my 2 cents. And every double cheeseburger you order, put bacon on it. So,
all right, Rick, your final take for the night.
Yeah, I think with the Cuomo thing too, the sexual harassment thing, raise your kids right, teach them to be respectful, empower your kids. If you have girls, respect women in front of them, always do the right thing. They'll learn that that's what's supposed to happen. And I'm with you. Read as much as you can. Read all the different sides. Read left papers and right papers. You'll figure out what's actually going on if you read it all. It becomes pretty clear. And don't get bogged down in things like necessarily like the cancel culture. There's bigger things going on more important things, systematic things, and don't let the misdirection and don't let them make you hate your fellow Americans for some arbitrary reason.
Tyler?
South Dakota politics needs to be better. This is our second show where we've had to discuss some pretty crappy issues, and we deserve better as a state. We can be better. We've got to hold ourselves to a higher standard. Also, when it comes to this country, where we're at right now, essentially the cost of living is rising. The cost of of the fuel we put in our cars to go places is significantly higher. Stock markets fluctuating, grain markets are fluctuating. We need to hold our federal government to a higher standard. We roasted Trump for 4 years. We impeached him 2 times, and we seem to be very silent right now on the state of the union at this time. Do not feel like we're off to a very good start. I feel like if you're on the left, I feel like you're lying to yourself. You're saying that we're focused in on these really crazy, mundane issues that technically affects very small percentages of the country, and there's big issues that just are being flat out ignored. And I think the everyday citizen right now is in a bit where I think we're worse off, and that's crazy to think. Because in Alaska we had an insurrection and lots of impeachments and lots of craziness all the time. It seems like we're no better off, so we need to get it figured out.
All right, my final take is something that Rick and I have visited quite a bit about, and it all goes back to the morals and the ethics and the values. And we as a society and a culture have taken away a lot of church and a lot of religion. And it's not so much the fact that whether you believe in a God or not, but whether you believe in right and wrong and how you treat your fellow American, your fellow humans. And I think that's what's missing in our culture today. I go to church because I believe in God. If the next person goes to church because he wants to do the right thing and treat people the right way and doesn't necessarily have that relationship with God, I think that's what's important. And that's what's missing. So that's pretty deep to end the show on. But yeah, if we have those ethics and values and wanting to treat your neighbor as yourself, that's what's important at the end of the day. So
not a lot of lulls in tonight's episode of the Phat Dads, but I think that goes back to saying kind of the state of the union right now. There's lots of important issues to discuss and talk about. So yeah, keep your family safe, and that's all I've got.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys later. Once again, like I always like to end the show, you and your family are the most important. What happens at the national level, sometimes we can't control, but we can control our own houses. So don't get too depressed about it. Keep fighting the good fight. Read page 30, like Casey says, and we'll see y'all guys in a couple of weeks.